I'm a big believer in, I suppose, innovation, and, we can't innovate and we can't be creative if we don't make mistakes. So I make mistakes. Ultimately, my team will make mistakes, and they need to know that it's okay to make mistakes, because if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
No unicorns, no brands, just hardworking people who built their business from the ground up, sharing their experience so others can learn. Presented by Larissa Feeney from Kenore. This is Real Business Conversations.
On Real Business Conversations today, we are tackling the balancing act between aggressive growth and essential well-being. Our guest, Jenni Timony, is the founder of the hugely successful Irish athleisure brand FitPink Fitness. Crucially, she's also the managing director for I Am Here, leading the movement for psychological safety in the workplace. With a unique perspective on scaling a major brand while prioritising human performance, Jenni is here to share the strategies that prove compassion is in fact a commercial necessity. It's a pleasure to welcome the founder of FitPink and MD of I Am Here, Jenni Timony. Hi Jenni, you're very welcome.
Hello there, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Jenni, I have so much that I could ask you because I am familiar with your story, or certainly some of it, I think. So maybe we'll just start at the beginning, because you have, I'm going to say, about 30 years as an entrepreneur. Would that be right?
It's actually about 32 now. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So will you take us right back to the beginning and maybe tell me how you started as an entrepreneur?
Born in Ireland to Irish parents, grew up in Australia though. My parents emigrated to Australia in the 80s, did my high school education in Australia, but didn't really settle, just couldn't wait to get back to Ireland. So came back to Ireland after I finished high school and intended to study either business or medicine, but I wasn't able to get into university at that stage because they didn't recognise the Australian school results. So I was looking around, what am I going to do with myself? And I thought I'd start a business. So in my naive 18-year-old head, I thought starting a business was an easy option, which we all know that it's not. But yeah, I just got a small credit union loan and opened a little cafe on the Killybegs Road out of Donegal town. And
you were 18?
Learned to just 8 there. Wow. Actually, I'm nearly 19 at that stage. Okay. But that was my first real foray into entrepreneurship. And really, I suppose, it was a learning experience from day one, and I haven't wanted to do anything else ever since then. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and to start things.
So you started your first business when you were 18, almost 19, and that was a cafe. So that was in hospitality. It's very different to the industry you're in today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So talk us through that journey.
Well, from the cafe, I noticed that there was a gap in the market for pre-packed sandwiches. So it occurred to me that the only products you would see in pre-packed were kind of late night, last option in a petrol station. So I figured, there must be a way to do that better and to put out a better quality offering for consumers. And the whole trend around dashboard dining and convenience food is really only starting to emerge around then. Okay. So I thought I would start a pre-packed sandwich brand. So I did that, and that kind of became more about food production really rather than hospitality. So that really kind of grew quite significantly over the next number of years. We started a designated food production unit that was fully kitted out and, HSE approved. And we really started to try to scale that business from a couple of shops that we supplied in and around Donegal town to Sligo, then to Galway. And then we just kept trying to develop it. So down to Dublin, then, further on down to Killarney.
And so this is what, late 90s, early 2000s, is it? Or
yeah, late 90s into the 2000s.
Yeah. So it was kind of the Celtic tiger was roaring at that point. And
exactly,
so you had identified this gap of workers on the go that needed something to eat. And you, as you said, good quality product, there was none or very few of them.
Yeah.
And there was a gap in the market for you. So you ended up supplying most of the island of Ireland, is that right?
You did, yeah. So we were supplying, by the end we were supplying the Topaz Energy, which is now Circle K. They were 65 stores nationwide. We had a contract for Aldi Ireland, which was about 70 stores at the time. BWG Spar, hospitals, universities, independents. So yeah, it was really once people saw the difference in quality of the product, and people would give us a trial, and they would a few sandwiches on the shelf, and customers would come back looking for more. So it took off from there.
This was you. I mean, you were in your 20s.
That's right, yeah. It's
That's
3 children in my 20s. My daughters were born
oh my
in
God.
that decade.
Yeah, so this was all at the same time. And did you have any, like, I don't know, background in entrepreneurship in the family? Was there business owners in the family?
There was. There still is. On my dad's side of the family, there are my uncles, my aunt, Nuno's an estate agent. My uncles, they're in retail. One's in boat training and maritime training skills. So there's quite a lot in my family background. Yeah,
because I have none whatsoever. So I'm just interested in like that's
interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? That entrepreneurial streak is in your genes essentially.
It seems to be. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. So those 10 years or so of your 20s must have been a manic time for you, Jenni.
It was crazy. And I think, you look back on those times as a 51 today, actually.
Happy
I look
birthday.
back on those times. Thanks. And I think I couldn't have done it now, or I couldn't have done it in my late 40s. It was the energy of youth, I think, that drove me on at that stage.
And probably a naivety as well. You don't know what you don't know.
A lot of that.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I think people say to me, oh, you're so brave to start a business. But I don't think it was brave at all. I think when you have nothing to compare it to. So I didn't have a career yet in corporate or anything like that. So it's not that I was giving up a big paycheck to start my own thing. That I think is brave. That is really brave.
Yeah.
But, I have nothing to lose. So it was just went with it.
That was the sentence actually that was in my head there. You had nothing to lose. So you were just going to build something. And you're right.
Exactly.
If you have an established lifestyle or career, to move away from that completely and start something new, that is brave. But I mean, I wouldn't take away from the bravery element at the same time, because it wasn't the safe path. I mean, if you think about the cafe moving to the size of organization that you built over those years, that was massively challenging for any individual. I mean, you were crisscrossing the country because you were traveling a lot during those years. You were raising a small family as well. How was that business financed? If I heard you correctly, you built a facility in Donegal Town. How did you, was that financed through banks, or how did that work?
Yeah. So again, in my 20s, I didn't have the experience to really plan these things. I mean, I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of these things aren't plans written down. Your business plan is almost out of date the day it's printed. Yeah. It's such an iterative process, and it doesn't go in a straight line, as you know. But finance was just cash flow, really. So it was, I think, a mistake. If I look back and I take a learning from it, is I would have probably capitalized the business better from an earlier stage. I would have got investors, and I would have had investment there in the accounts to be able to bring on new customers, I suppose. So I would have seen, okay, we've got a new customer, that's fantastic. And I would have seen the revenue in my head, but I wouldn't have allowed for the fact that you need to put a van on the road 30 days before you get paid. You need a driver, you need more people in production, and all of those costs are hitting you straight away, but you don't get paid for 30 days. So I didn't even consider that. I just kept, financing from bank loans, credit union, overdraft, anything I could get my hands on. So it was a piecemeal kind of a...
That's very normal though, I think, wasn't it? For early stage business, as you say, the business plan is out of date straight away, and you find the money, you do what needs to be done just to continue to build. That's very normal.
That's the reality.
Yeah, that's the reality. So tell us about the main learnings then from that particular business that you took on, because I know you've gone on to build more. What did you learn there?
So that business went into liquidation in 2008. So I learned from that a lot. I learned really that you need to look very carefully at the business model that you're planning to go into, the industry you're going into. So while I looked at the industry and I saw growth and I saw this is just the start of convenience food, this is going to grow, and I was right, I didn't really look at the business model. And the business model was short shelf life food, high labour cost, high capital cost, and a 3-day shelf life. So you're dealing with product that you have to sell, get to your furthest customer and sell within 3 days. So all of those costs, made it a low margin business and a very capital and labour intensive business. So that's where I didn't look at. So my kind of learning from that was to really look at your business model before you start something. Secondly, too, I probably invested all of myself on a personal level into that business ahead of pretty much everything in my life. And when it ended, it was a shock to the system, to say the least. But that made me realise that, certainly you need that drive and passion for your business. But I would say don't be in love with your business, because your business isn't going to
love you back
to be there when you're 80. Yeah, exactly. So, while I've gone into business since, I've gotten much better at having a life balance, a bit of life balance, and to be more present with my family. So yeah, that's another big learning.
I think that's look, I don't know any business owner that doesn't learn that lesson somewhere along the way. That emotional attachment to your business is, well, it's very real, isn't it, in the early years especially? And it's because you grow it from nothing. I mean, you grew it from
exactly,
nothing.
Yeah.
So it's very, very normal. It's just, I don't think your experience is unusual either, where it takes a shock sometimes to actually realize that and to make real changes, you know, which is a shame. So moving on then to your next adventure after that business went into liquidation in 2008. Was that whenever you went into you started doing a lot of work with startups? Is that right?
I did, yeah. So I did a marketing agency for a while, and I would have been working with startups through that. And then I got, as part of that, I would have been doing some training for New Frontiers, which is the startup accelerator. And the role came up to manage New Frontiers in the Northwest. So that was in IT Sligo and IT Letterkenny. So I did that for a while on and off. Something I enjoyed enormously, working with other startups and getting views and insights into completely different industries from the ones that I would have been familiar with.
You must have been able to teach those startups a lot, though.
Well, yeah, I suppose I would have been able to give them the benefit of my learnings and hopefully would have helped along the way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I know, I'd say that. And then you went into another hugely competitive sector, into the athleisure sector with FitPink. So going from food, like you've got, you know, they're so different, aren't they? But they're equally as competitive and maybe even more so. Going from where you started with food, well, hospitality, and then into food production, and then into training and mentorship and marketing, and then into athleisure. What brought you there?
So what brought me there was I was looking around again. The bug never goes away. I think if you're inclined towards entrepreneurship, and you know, I always look at the world with, is there an opportunity or an idea in that? I had just had my fourth child, a little boy who's 10 actually next month. Getting back into my exercise after 6 weeks after having Adam, and bought, you know, Nike, Adidas leggings, the big brands, went out for a run, and firstly they'd no pockets, which as any mother of small children will know, you don't go anywhere without your phone. They sat low in my hip, which isn't at all flattering on most 90% of bodies, but certainly not a postpartum one. So I just thought, this is crazy. This is, you know, fairly expensive money for something that's not fit for purpose. So got me looking at the market, did a bit of research, realised that athleisure was the fastest growing category in clothing at that time. And that was well before COVID. Things really took off for athleisure. But so yeah, I spent about 2 years over and back with suppliers, trying to put together a basic range of leggings and t-shirts, and succeeded in doing that and launched in 2019, about 6 months before the pandemic.
Wow. And if I remember correctly, now today, every pair of leggings has pockets, Jenny, right? But if I remember correctly, FitPink was it the first?
Oh, no, definitely not. No, there's
not the first?
The bigger brands, the more expensive. No, not the first. There were brands. There still are very expensive brands out there that are more than twice the price of FitPink leggings. But I suppose I wanted to get that quality and that functionality in a pair of leggings at a mid price, so to make them affordable for people. So you're not just hoping to get one aspirational purchase off somebody, but you're hoping to become that person will become a lifetime customer if you can sell them something that's great quality, flattering fit, and affordable above all else.
And so you launched that 6 months before the pandemic started. So your timing for that particular sector was really, really good. Was it a challenge meeting demand over the pandemic?
It's funny because I always say in business, it's a combination of luck and timing. And that was, I would say, probably the first time in my career that I got timing absolutely spot on. And that was, getting that timing spot on was pure luck.
Those years, or those couple of years of the pandemic, that's all we wore was leggings and comfortable clothes. There must have been huge demand on the business at that time.
There was. So again, the timing of that was quite good. So, we had started to sell a few pieces at a time when we launched in July of 2019. And I was still working full time with New Frontiers. So I would just pack those orders in the evening and my husband would post it the next day. But I did have to take money out of the business. So everything that was coming into the business, I was reinvesting in stock. And I was almost stockpiling all of the stock. And people would say, what are you buying all this for? It's not selling yet. But I figured it just was going to take something. It could have been one influencer to talk about us, or something would happen and all of a sudden we'd get a run of sales. And little did I know that's something that would happen would be the pandemic, and, demand would just go through the roof. And on top of that, we had a really good few months because other suppliers weren't carrying extra stock because they might, stockpiling stock.
They weren't ready.
So they would have run out of stock. Exactly, yeah. So they would have probably run out of stock quite early. And then, suppliers weren't really shipping because factories weren't producing. So there was a period there of a few months where I had supply, I think, and a lot of other brands didn't. So it certainly really helped accelerate us.
Okay. And that must have massively helped in terms of awareness as well, because while those brands had to step back, they couldn't be promoting themselves with no stock.
It did.
Allowed you to step forward a little bit.
That's it, yeah. And I think the great thing, our customer base is obviously female only, and anywhere between kind of 25 and 65, 75-year-old women. And the great thing I think about women is we tell each other when we find something we like, we tell each other and we trust each other's recommendations. So, I've always said that half of our marketing is Meta and Instagram ads, but the other half is definitely word of mouth. Yeah. It's very powerful.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about marketing actually, because you've mentioned social media there, and you've also mentioned influencers. It is like that B2C sector that you're in is massively crowded. How do you manage to stand out?
You're absolutely right. It is a very crowded market and getting more competitive every year with the Shein and Amazon and Temu's to contend with. How we stand out is, I look at other competitors from time to time, but I really try not to too much because I'm very keen that we be our authentic selves, and we're not trying to sort of copy anybody else. We just really want to be our own brand and be known for what we do best, which is well-fitting, consistently good product at an affordable price, and also the service end of it too. So our customer service is exceptional. We make it our business to answer emails within minutes, if not hours, of them coming in. Messages answer immediately. If you order any weekday before 2 p.m, you'll have your product the next day in most cases. Returns and exchanges, we process them the same day we get them back. So unlike other big brands, you're not waiting 6 weeks or 4 weeks for the money to get back into your account for a return. Yeah. So really the service is something, and customer service, you would probably know this yourself from your own business, but I think it's a key way for smaller businesses to differentiate, is that level of exceptional customer service, because it's something that bigger brands just can't seem to replicate. The more layers there are in a large company, there's things take longer.
It's very difficult.
Whereas small businesses like ours are fleet of foot and nimble and able to respond quickly.
And from a marketing perspective, do you find that you have to continually change your marketing strategy to keep up with trends, across different platforms, understanding all of them, or have you settled on one or two of them? How do you manage that element of the business?
So I suppose we really look at where are our customers, and I think it starts with really knowing who your customer is, her profile of your customer, where she looks online, what she does in her spare time, and really sticking close to that. And with every decision with marketing, such as a new platform or a new social media tool, it's, well, is our customer on it? Will our customer be there? So, we're very slow to jump on to things that are trends, because we're not a trend-driven business. We never have been. We're more about classics that last, forever, rather than any fashion fads. But it's really going from where your customer is and where your customers like you to be, and take inspiration from and get ideas from. That's where we want to be. So, yeah, we have dabbled. We sometimes we dabbled in some social media platforms, but you get to know fairly quickly whether they work or not. And my policy has always been to certainly try something on a small scale that doesn't cost too much. And if you get good signals, by all means, kick on it. If you don't, cut it early. So we've kind of settled on on 2 or 3 sort of channels and tactics that work for us. And our innovation around those is different approaches to those, are looking for different audiences on those platforms rather than anything way out there that we don't think our customer would be on. Yeah.
And your customer, Jenni, because you are your customer essentially. You're women, as you say, between 25 and 65 or 75. So you know where they are, you know what they're interested in, you know what they're looking for, you know what they're talking about. So you've got a very well defined.
And we ask.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we ask. So we send out emails every 3 or 4 days, a kind of a marketing email. It comes from my email address and people respond to it and I get the email.
Okay.
So we'll ask a lot of the time, what we pull up a little poll on social media, our next fleece is what color, this or that, and you'll get a vote. And that's the color we will order.
Okay.
Literally, we ask all the time, what do you want? What do you not want?
Okay, so you're listening to your customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And does your customer ever tell you anything that you were surprised to hear in terms of what they want, in terms of trends or,
Yeah, so I suppose when you ask customers for opinions, you'll hear a huge variety of different opinions and wants and needs, but you can't obviously act on everything. But what we do tend to see is when there's a pattern or when customers or lots of different customers are asking for something in particular, that's when we act. So an example of that would have been different leg lengths. So our leggings and come in 2 lengths now, and our straight leg trousers, which are like work trousers but feel like activewear, they come in 3 lengths, and our flares in 3 lengths. So that was something that came from mostly shorter women saying, everything's too long, can you do a shorter one? So we did that. And then again, we have other customers that are tall and want a longer leg length. But then you'll have some people asking for things that are quite unique in terms of styles of leggings and prints and things.
Yeah, that's just not
wouldn't sell to the majority.
Yeah. But isn't social media, the way you're using social media there, really interesting because you're using it to shape the business essentially, and it's a really interesting way of getting to know what the customer actually wants. We were never able to do that before social media. Not really, not without having focus groups or formal ways of bringing customers together.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I think they're even more. They're more an authentic response than a focus group too, because they're direct to you and they're not, influenced by groupthink or by the loudest voice in the room. It's just generally one-on-one from a single customer, and lots of people do it. Hopefully.
Getting that insight into your customer in a B2C is fascinating. So you stay really close to your customers. I mean, this is a question that I get asked all the time from startups. It's around, okay, first of all, what social media platform should I be on? You've answered that, right? Where your customers are. That's a great answer. What about the business owner? So you going on camera and talking to your customers. Do you do that? Are you comfortable doing that?
I do, yeah. I avoided that for the first 4 years of the business. So I said from day one that I didn't want to be the face of the brand. I'm not an influencer. I don't have a huge profile on social media. So I wasn't going to try and use that to grow a customer base. And other influencers that have great followings, that's their strategy. But I thought I wanted the brand to be a standalone brand on its own merit rather than having the face behind it. And that was fine when things were great. But then as things got challenging, as they always do, I thought, what can I do differently? I always try to think, what got me here won't get me there. So you have got to change your approach to things, I think, in business over time. And one of those things was social media. So I looked around and saw the likes of Amy Connolly from Sculpted by Amy on 24/7 on herself, on her socials. And I thought, well, if somebody like Amy is doing that, there's a reason for that. She's not doing that for chance. She knows that's what works. So from Ailey and lots of other female founders, I thought, well, that's what I need to be doing. Put myself out there more. And so last year started doing that. Still would say I'm not entirely comfortable with it. I just, I'm not there yet, but the more you do it, I think the easier it gets.
Yeah, well done, because a lot of female founders and indeed male founders tend to struggle with that element of it, so it's really, so you've made a decision. It obviously works. They're doing it for a reason. They're not doing it because they like looking at themselves on camera. They're doing it because it works, and it works really well for them, and so we just have to do it. Grit
your teeth and do it. But I think too that it's another differentiator that large businesses and large brands can't replicate.
Absolutely.
It's something that we can do, and people do business with who they trust. They do business with people they trust, not nameless, faceless organizations. So,
well, I mean, that's why influence marketing has gotten so popular, because that's the larger brands' way of trying to get closer to the customer and trying to use that, know, like, and trust element. But you can't know, like, or trust a big brand, but you can know, like, and trust somebody on social media who you follow anyway, whenever they use a big brand. So that's their way of doing exactly what you're doing yourself, obviously at much greater cost,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
What is the one non-negotiable metric that you track every day to ensure the success of FitPink? Or is there one non-negotiable metric?
No, there's a few. I mean, the first thing I look at in the morning, I get a report overnight of the website sales. Obviously, the top line sales figure I look at, and I have my kind of daily benchmark, weekly and monthly, that we need to be hitting. So look at that. Look at traffic to the website just to see is it up or down or the same. But yeah, really just sales is the first thing I look at every morning. Website traffic, conversion rate, obviously for a e-commerce website, conversion rate is critical. It does vary. You find that if you're spending a lot on driving traffic through, could be Google Ads, could be Meta or Instagram, you find you will see a decline in your conversion rate because you're sending colder traffic. But ultimately you can be having more sales. So I don't worry too much about that.
Yeah, it's just the cost of those sales then you have to consider, whenever you're paying the
so we've been lucky like that from, I know a lot of brands find that Meta's are really expensive and doesn't, they can't make a profit in their first order. It's the lifetime value they're hoping to make a profit on, whereas we're lucky in that we've been first order profitable through Meta from the beginning. So even though costs of Meta have increased, we're still first time order profitable. So that's very helpful.
And there must be, I'm guessing, because of the brand loyalty that your customers have, a recurring element to the income too, which is fantastic.
There is, yeah. I suppose that there absolutely is, and the service element too keeps people coming back. So we're very lucky. We've got a lovely bunch of customers that are really fans of FitPink. Yeah.
That's really interesting. The website traffic, right? Have you noticed that has gotten more difficult? Like you said, about driving traffic to the site, right? You need people on the site because that's where they buy, and obviously you have to track conversion after that. Have you found with the changes that Google has made over the last 12 months or 18 months or maybe longer than that, there's been changes to SEO, there's been more of a shift towards ChatGPT. Have you found challenges in that way, or are you ahead of the curve there?
No, I don't think we're ahead of the curve. The SEO for our product is very, very, very hard because it's so competitive. And we're competing with the likes of Lululemon, who has been in business for 30 plus years with their brand. And they were one of the first to market with yoga type products. So I never really relied on SEO because I know it's so competitive and it's a long-term strategy rather than an immediate shot in the arm for sales. So it doesn't really matter. We're still getting our traffic. A lot of it comes from, as I said, paid efforts, and then a lot of it comes just direct to the website. So from what we can see, we think the direct to the website traffic is probably referrals. It's people saying, check out this website, I got a great pair of leggings. And those referrals and that traffic from organic sources accounts for about 50% of our new customers.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's positive. Yeah. Do you have a team that manages this for you, Jenni, or do you do a lot of it yourself?
I do a lot of it myself. Okay. We do have an external agency that manages our ads, but we would do the creatives for the ads and feed them into them.
Yeah. I find that whole area fascinating because, we have seen challenges with website traffic over the last few months, and we actually had to do a complete redesign of the site as a result of it because our site was built to answer particular questions that are now been answered by Google AI. Or by ChatGPT. So we had to rejig it on.
That's a challenge.
Definitely.
And have you seen that taken an impact on your traffic since you've done the website redesign?
We've seen massive increases since we did the redesign, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Now, we were also impacted by several, I'm going to say 2 or maybe 3 Google algorithm updates that were also impacted us. So we had a couple of knocks and that way. The redesign was done before... Well, at the end of the summer, the redesign was done. And we've seen big changes since then. And it's because of the shift from SEO to GEO, or I don't even know the terminology myself, but it's just the changes in our particular market. Yours is slightly different because it's product. So people's looking for a product, whereas for us, they're not looking for a product. They're looking for a service or information.
Information and answers.
Yeah. And ChatGPT can provide that sometimes, and Google AI is providing it as well. So whereas before the site might have attracted a visitor to look at a blog, for example, and then that visitor might have gone on to be a client, that visitor's not coming anymore because ChatGPT or Google AI is now answering the question for them. So it's been interesting. It's been an interesting journey. And for you, so you are now 2019, so you're 9 years into this journey at the moment.
What do we now know? About six, just over
6 years
6
into the journey. Okay.
Yeah.
And what has the journey been like overall? So you had a really busy pandemic.
Yeah, it's been, I think, quite unlike any startup trajectory I've experienced or I've heard of other people experiencing. So, you expect the kind of general hockey stick. You start, then you take a dip, and then you go up and to the right. And ours was not like that. Okay. It started and went sharply up and to the right. Literally in the space of 6 months, it went crazy. Yeah. And then come 22 and 23, it took a sharp decline. So people had probably overbought activewear during the pandemic because you couldn't buy anything else and you couldn't do anything else. So you weren't buying new outfits for a wedding or holiday wear or anything. You were just buying athleisure. So when the world opened up again, not only were we competing with other clothing, but we were competing with everything for spend. So restaurants again, your disposable spend might have been going on eating out instead of buying stuff. So yeah, 22 was tough. I would say 22, 23 were quite tough. They were tough years. But we iterated. We kind of iterated the product range. We sort of since Sven releases by 22, we started to sort of move into products that aren't necessarily pure exercise wear. They're kind of comfortable casual wear.
So you started expanding the product range as such.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thoughtfully expanding it. So we still don't want to be fast fashion. We don't want to be everything to everyone because we'll never be able to do that. But really, expanding where it makes sense. So we went into fleeces in 23, I think, and that gave us a huge lift. And then last year we started doing our work trousers. So we do slim and straight leg work trousers that feel like activewear, but you would wear with a pair of pumps or low heels and a blouse for work. And again, that's been hugely successful for us too. So,
wow.
And I can announce this here. Actually, I haven't told anyone yet, but I'm sure that it'll be a while before this is broadcast. So by the time this happens, this will be out there. So we're about to, we've actually just started to go into other brands as well.
Okay.
So fitpinkfitness.com will become fitpinkandco.com.
Oh.
So again, going back to what our customer asks us for, they're always saying, what about things to go with the straight leg trousers? What tops can you get tops that will go with these? So we're starting now to move into other brands that I've carefully selected and really looked into properly and spent time with for casual, smart casual workwear and casual athleisure. So things that will complement our own leggings. And our own products, and just gives people more variety options and products that are fit for everyday life, not really just for exercise or just for Saturdays.
Oh, that's fascinating. Well, congratulations, first of all. Is that going to be your own products that you're selling on FitPink & Co, or are you bringing other brands onto the site?
Other brands,
very
other brands.
Good.
So our own products are great, but it's it's a slow process to design something from scratch, source it, sample it, do all of that. And I want to be able to offer relatively regular new products that are well selected for our customer base. So I thought we'd try some other brands. Yeah.
So you're going to be looking for brands, or maybe you've already sourced them that match you in terms of your values of sustainability and a move away from fast fashion as such.
Absolutely. So other brands that are like ourselves, good quality at a reasonable, affordable price.
Yeah.
The things that you can wear for several seasons that aren't too trend driven. So we'll never do things that are a crazy color that are just spring 2026 and you'll never wear them again. So we try to stick to things that are classic that you'll wear year in, year out.
Well, congratulations. That'll definitely be live, I'd say, by the time this podcast goes out. So we look forward to checking it out then. Jenni, whenever you said at the start of the journey for FitPink, you really bootstrapped it, right? You stockpiled the product, as you said. Did you continue to do that right the way through or have you continued to do that right the way through the journey, or have you sought investors along the way? That's very popular today.
Yeah, we did a bit of crowdfunding. So we raised some investment at the end of 21. Okay. We raised a small investment through crowdfunding, and that was great. We still have all of our investors from that fund are still on board and still very supportive. And other than that, we kind of bootstrapped. We use some finance houses that are out there for, say, buying stock, where you borrow the money and you pay it off out of your daily takings.
Yes. Like invoice discounting type thing. Yeah.
So we use some of those. Yeah, kind of, yeah. So that's quite a good tool for us when we're looking for a lot of stock towards the end of the year for quarter four, which is always our best quarter.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, still we're relatively bootstrapped. Yeah, there isn't a lot of money to throw around. It's it needs to be carefully managed.
Yeah. Can you talk to me about the crowdfunding? Because I think that's really fascinating. I don't think we've had anybody on the podcast before who has accessed funding in that way. And I think for those people that listen, or for those business owners that are listening to this and are looking at how to raise money, crowdfunding is a viable option, one of many, of course. What was your experience of it? Did you find it as a business owner easy to navigate? Was it worth doing?
Yeah. It was definitely. The advantages of crowdfunding, I would say, are that it's fast. Mm-hmm. So I think with regular venture funding or bank funding, you could be 6 months in the process, if not longer, of trying to raise private investment or venture funding. Crowdfunding takes about a month to prepare, to get all of your due diligence, for them to do all of their due diligence and prepare documentation, all of that. Then the campaign goes live for a month to 6 weeks, and it's very intense. So you're always reaching out to people on LinkedIn, you're meeting people. Then, there's a huge scramble. You get a bump of investors early, then you get a kind of valley of death in the middle where nobody's looking at it. And then the last few days again, it takes an uptick. Then it's done, including legals and everything else. You'll have your investment in the bank in another 30 days. So You're talking 90 days tops from start to finish. So, you need to allow it the time to engage with that and do it and be there to talk to people. But yeah, it's a relatively fast process. Made easier by the nominee company. So rather than dealing with, I think there's something like 60 plus investors in our investment from the crowdfund, we deal with one nominee company.
Okay.
That represents those investors. And that being said, I still communicate to the investors directly with a quarterly update.
Okay.
But yeah, I would recommend it for certain businesses. Yeah, it worked for us. It was a good way to do it.
Yeah, probably not for everybody though. But then, investment isn't for everybody either. Some businesses, choose to go a different route. Thank you for bringing us through that. That's really interesting. So not only are you busy with FitPink, because you are, you've now decided, or you are now MD of I Am Here. So I'm really fascinated to hear about this position because I haven't spoken to you at all since you've taken this on. So maybe you could tell us about how you ended up in that particular role.
I Am Here was founded by a good friend of mine called Jim Breen, who was also an EY Entrepreneur of the Year finalist in the same year as I was with Doolittle's back in 2007. So Jim was the guy who founded Cycle Against Suicide back in 2012.
Okay, right. Yes.
Yeah. And then I Am Here arose out of Cycle Against Suicide, where businesses were asking him, can you do something similar for our business? So I Am Here really is about, recognizing that in companies, people are so much less likely to reach out if they're needing support or help. So I Am Here works to really embed the courage, confidence, and clear skills for everybody in the organization, not necessarily just managers, but everybody in the organization, to be able to recognize when a colleague might not be feeling okay, and ask the question, show you care, and signpost them to help and support if needed. So, what tends to happen, maybe it's an Irish thing, but when you notice maybe a colleague is struggling, it might be, oh, well, I didn't know what to say, or you lean out away from that rather than leaning into it. So with I Am Here, team members know I suppose they're just getting the skills and the confidence and the courage to lean into that conversation and be able to hopefully help a colleague. And we know that with our existing clients, what they see over time is not only does it impact help seeking and help offering behavior, it also has an effect on the organization where disengagement is lower. So people are more engaged with their work, more engaged with their colleagues, and productivity is higher. Leave for things like stress and mental health leave can be reduced by really teaching everybody in the organizations to look out for each other. So it's more about collective responsibility for each other as human beings rather than saying, oh, well, that's a HR problem, or, sort of, okay, you're trained in mental health first aid, you deal with that. Yeah. So it's a more long-term culture driven, I suppose. It's about changing the culture rather than a tick box exercise to say, yes, that person is trained in mental first aid. And it works very well. So it's a fantastic product to be leading and to be working with. Particularly when I talk to clients that have had I Am Here for the long term, and you hear stories. A client was telling me last week that she had a guy that worked on a building site came to her and said that because of I am here, he gave up gambling,
Wow.
which had ruled his life for the last 10 years. And he said his marriage was going from the brink of divorce to being all loved up again.
Wow.
And he's coaching his kids' soccer team at the weekend for the first time in his life. He's actually seen his kids at the weekend as well. So for me, that's what it's about, and that's why I Am Here is such a powerful initiative in companies, because it's not just helping employees, it's helping us as humans, it's helping families, and the ripple effect it's having into families and even communities is fantastic.
So what is it then for the company? Is it software or is it training or is it both?
It's both.
Okay.
So I suppose we call it culture change. It's a long-term commitment from a company and from ourselves. So it's not a one and done course or project. It's a 3-year commitment. And the interesting thing is 3 years sounds like a lot, but I think the vast majority of our clients have signed on for a second and third 3-year terms. It really shows the impact it's having. But it's we certainly have a dashboard, the arena, where there's a whole range of different help and supports and numbers to call for different problems that need support, as well as reading materials and tools and other things. But a lot of what we do is either virtual live or even face-to-face talks with teams on building sites, in offices, to sort of re-engage, because we know that if you want to improve your physical health, you're not going to do one Hyrox class and say you're fit. Similar with our mental health, we can't expect to do a course and say that we're all mentally well and fit. It's a continuous process. It needs to be repeated. And that sort of repetition and regular effort is what leads to culture change and what leads to teams really engaging with each other and supporting each other and being more cohesive and connected, which ultimately benefits the business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can completely see why businesses would be signing up and would be interested in it. Is there any particular industries that you work with, Jenni?
So we work with any industries. Where we currently have the most of our clients would be construction would be one. In Australia, we have just signed a deal with Allianz Insurance as their only mental health and wellbeing provider in Australia and New Zealand. And they are looking to roll this out in their education clients and then their Department of Corrections clients. So, really any high stress industries where there's high stress and there's, high demand on the people resource, which is almost every industry now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What took you there? Because you're very busy anyway, and the business takes up, I'm sure, a lot of your time.
It does, yeah. But I think because I was involved with Cycle Against Suicide. I helped Jim with Cycle Against Suicide back in 2012. So kind of watched it grow and watched the impact it's had. And then when Jim started I Am Here, I was very much interested in how that was going to impact workplace well-being. Yeah. And it's just something I've always been really interested in, having, worked with teams my whole life and employed lots of people. So the role came up. Jim mentioned it in passing and asked would I be interested. And it was something I didn't have to think a lot about, because it's something that grabs me, and it's something that really engages me.
So I have 2 follow-on questions, right, from that, because to me, you're now doing 2 full-time roles, or maybe even more than that, because you're a business owner, and that is always more than a full-time role. So the first question I have is, how do you manage to split your time between the 2? And the second question I have is, from a social media perspective, how do you manage to speak to your different audiences across the 2 businesses?
So I suppose the second question first, how do I manage to speak to different audiences across the businesses? LinkedIn at the moment for me is very much about I Am Here.
Okay.
And,
so it's a different platform.
Yeah, because it's more natural. That's where, potential corporate clients would be, or existing corporate clients are. So that feels authentic and natural for me to talk about I Am Here on LinkedIn. And then FitPink, when I'm on, if it's Instagram or Facebook, that's my FitPink hat. So it's important to me that I'm authentic about both. I can't I don't want to be inauthentic about anything. So far that works. I just know when it's Instagram and Facebook. I have my my FitPink hat on, and then LinkedIn is very much I am here. So it works. I can't imagine if it were both in the one platform, that might be a bit of a different approach. But the approach and the style of what I post on LinkedIn is obviously quite different from what's on FitPink.
Yeah.
So,
and it reminds me of, sometimes we work with businesses who have one business and sometimes even one offering, but two different customers, a B2B and a B2C. And they would do exactly what you do. They would go to LinkedIn for B2B and to the other social platforms for B2C. And the product might be the same. In your case, it's not, but the product might be the same, but their language is different and how they post is different. And even sometimes what they talk about in terms of their value proposition might be slightly different. But there's two very distinct audiences across those different platforms, even though in a lot of cases, they're the same people, because they're the same.
Exactly,
there's still people that are on LinkedIn. They're also on Instagram.
That must be very hard. I would imagine that's quite difficult to do.
Yeah. Oh no, it is. But for you, it's very separate, isn't it? It's clearly two different businesses, two different markets. Yeah.
I think I would find it more difficult if they were similar.
Yeah,
that would probably be a lot harder. But they are so different that it's natural. It's like talking about two different subjects, so two different conversations.
Yeah, of course. And you must be getting a very good reaction to the product that you're working with I Am Here, I'm guessing, on LinkedIn and through your business connections, network.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the response is the impact it has on existing clients really is what I tell prospective new clients about. And I think the fact that the vast majority of our clients after a 3-year contract have signed on again.
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes.
I love that 3-year commitment, by the way. I think that's really important, because I hate the one and done thing. I feel it, even in this business, whenever we talk about working with the teams across various different areas or whatever it is that we're trying to do, it's not a one course and everybody knows what to do. It has to be an ongoing commitment, especially in the area of mental health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So back to the first question then, how do you manage to divide your time between the two?
I think I have a great team in FitPink, so we're not a big team, but we're a very effective team. So very much about quality rather than quantity. And I think when I started with I Am Here, I really had to let go and to delegate properly for probably the first time in my career.
Yeah.
So, up to now I might have delegated some things, but not a lot, or kept an eye on this, or always maybe micromanage would be the better word. But when I Am Here came up, I knew I couldn't do that. I had to absolutely hand things over and stick to it. And it was the best thing I ever did.
Okay.
Absolutely the best thing I ever did. The team that I've handed over to are more than capable. And, if anything, their performance has improved because they've been truly given genuine responsibility now.
You've gone out of their way.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of your own way.
Yeah.
I've said that to people, and now I'm looking at it, and I've had to do it myself. And it was absolutely the right thing to do. So I'm still involved, but I would say, I Am Here gets the lion's share of my time at the moment, as it should, because I'm still learning about the product and about I Am Here is helping. But FitPink is always, I'm always there for content. I do quite a few hours on a Saturday, and I'm always there to check in. So
But getting the business to the stage where you can do that, though, is a super achievement. So I mean, you have been able to build a team that's able to run the business day to day. And you're still there and you still own the business and you're still obviously making the strategic decisions, but you've been able to step away essentially, which I mean is.
But I think it's if anything, it's to the betterment of the business. So another thing that it's helped me do, apart from truly delegate, is actually think about the business more clearly.
Okay.
And it's the whole thing about working on the business, not in the business, and being away from it now. I see things a lot clearer, and I just see the proper vision and the bigger picture rather than being stuck in the weeds. So that's leading to, I think, better quality decisions for me about the business too.
Do you then have a cadence where you touch base with the team once a month or once a week so that you can, I suppose, still keep in touch with what's going on there at a certain level that's appropriate for what you need to know in order to make those decisions?
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's just keeping in touch regularly. Different times of the year, or different times of the month, you'll be in touch more. Other times things are taken over nicely. So
yeah.
It's always been there. And I suppose it's showing my team that I'm not far away and I'm always at the end of the phone and don't hesitate in asking, and that's it. It works well.
But at the same time, it's showing them, I trust you to do your job. I trust you to grow the business. I trust you to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
Which is really important as well for them.
Absolutely. And, I'm a big believer in, I suppose, innovation, and we can't innovate and we can't be creative if we don't make mistakes. So I make mistakes. I've made thousands of mistakes over the course of my career, and ultimately my team will make mistakes. And they need to know that it's okay to make mistakes, because if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to innovate or do things differently or better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So here's the question, okay? How did you get yourself to the place where you're able to do that and do it as well as you've done it? A lot of business owners will say, I can't delegate, or they can't do it as well as I do, or I can't get good people. There's loads of stories that we tell ourselves, Jenni. How did you manage to put yourself in that position?
Firstly, I wanted to. So like that, I could have said 6 months before now that I can't, or nobody can do it as well as me, or and I have to be in the business. But I really wanted to get involved with I Am Here because it's something I'm so passionate about. So I had to make it work. I had to trust the team. I had to take a leap of faith in them. They had to take a leap of faith in me. And I just had to do it because I really wanted to go ahead with I Am Here. So I was going to do it, and I just had to make it work. I think that's probably the biggest motivator and the biggest way of making things happen, is wanting to do something else enough. And I really did. So if I didn't want it enough, or if something else hadn't have come up like I Am Here that I was so passionate about, I may not have done it. I would have probably made those excuses like you've mentioned as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point you made.
Yeah, and I am lucky. You're absolutely right in terms of, I know in some industries it is very, very hard to get good people, and not just good people who'll stay with the organisation. So for me, I'm very lucky in that I have one or two very key people who plan to stay. And I thought, if I don't give them the responsibility and if I don't allow them to grow in the role, they're not going to stay.
Yeah.
So, they needed it too.
Yeah, I think you've touched on something that's really valid there. And that's, you wanted to do something else to the point that you had to. The decision was made for you. You wanted to do it. So you had to take care of the business. You had to make sure that other people were capable and able and willing and ready to do it. And you had to let them do it because you wanted to do this other thing so much. It reminds me of a situation for a business owner if there's a health issue that comes up. Your health will always, or if an issue comes up with a family, that would always take precedence over the business. So the business is only important to a point, right? Until there's something else there that is more important.
It's more important sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Jenni, we are coming to the end now. I have one final question. I'm really looking to understand what next. You've gone from, you started in hospitality, you went through food, you went through marketing, you went into startup mentorship and training, into athleisure, and now you're in the mental health space. What's next for you? Where do you go from here?
Gosh, at the moment, it feels like the I Am Here is obviously quite new to me, and I think the conversation in Ireland around the impact of mental health and well-being on companies and on productivity is only starting.
Yeah.
So I think I Am Here has a big future ahead of it, but it's early in that conversation and to sort of drag awareness and things. So I can see me being involved, hopefully, as the conversation opens up wider with I Am Here. And with FitPink, having just about to start our new brands, and that's a whole new strategy for the business. I'm dying to see what happens with that. Part of me is very nervous that I could put up the stuff and get rotten tomatoes thrown at me and people telling me, "What are you doing? This stuff's awful." But I'm excited.
But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
I hope not. I hope not. But I'm excited for FitPink too, because it's a different direction and it's a new strategy, and that's what keeps me motivated is trying new things and new strategies and iterating and always trying to do better than than we did last year. And like I said, what got me to here won't get me to there. So I want to see now, does this get me to there?
And it sounds like the way you're talking, it's almost like FitPink has been reinvigorated in some way by the fact that you've taken up this other role in I Am Here. You know, it's got almost like a new chapter now, a new strategy.
Yeah, I like how you put that there. So that's actually really true.
Yeah, it is. That's what it came across to me whenever you were talking. So Jenni, look, the very best of luck with it. I hope you come back and tell us how successful it has been and the I Am Here journey has been as well again soon. But in the meantime, Jenni, founder of FitPink and managing director of I Am Here, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Larissa. I really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you for listening to Real Business Conversations with Kenor. For more information on this episode, see the description area of this podcast or visit our website, kenor.com. Remember to press follow on your podcast player now so you'll get a brand new episode every single month. This podcast is produced by DustPod.io for Kenor Finance and Business Services.